Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of Deviant Square. This is Jeremy Taylor, the Stats Make Me Cry guy, and this episode is titled iOS4 Love and Multiple Regression. This week's episode is going to focus on the general concepts of regression, how to produce one in SPSS, and how to read through the output. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the theoretical underpinnings, or the assumptions, or the ins, outs, or what have yous. It's just a little beyond the scope of a short video like this. However, as always, if there's a specific thing with regression you want to see, feel free to submit a suggestion, and I will try to do a video on it. In fact, thanks this week to Regina, who's one of our viewers that actually suggested this week's multiple regression topic. So this week we're going to use multiple regression to answer the question, what makes Apple's new iPhone operating system, iOS4, the greatest mobile OS ever? So says me. So, our dependent variable is a measure of greatness, 1 to 100, 100 being the greatest, and we want to know which of our 4 possible predictors is the most predictive of greatness. Is it their excitement about multitasking? Perhaps their excitement about the unified mail inbox. Maybe it's the number of years they've owned an iPhone. Or perhaps it's just the fact that Apple's offering the update for free. Now before I go further, I want to make one thing clear. This is intended to be a stats tutorial. This is not real data, and it's not intended to be a commentary on technology or Apple or the iPhone. I'm just a fanboy, admittedly, and I like the iPhone and I like stats. So just to make it completely clear, I like the iPhone, and so this is me. That's Apple. This is me. That's Apple. We are in no way the same. We are not connected in any way. Okay, I think you get the point. Let's get back to stats. So, here we find ourselves in SPSS. Now remember, a multiple regression is used when you have several independent variables, and you want to determine the degree to which they, as a group and individually, might be able to predict some dependent variable with some reasonable amount of accuracy. So, in order to produce a regression in SPSS, you're going to go to Analyze in the drop-down menu, go to Regression, and in this case we're going to do Linear. You can also go to General Linear Models and select Univariate, but for today we'll stick to the standard way of regression and then to Linear. There are several kinds of regression. We'll stick to the linear regressions today. We are using our dependent variable total iPhone preference score, and that's going to go in the dependent variable box. And then the 4 independent variables we mentioned earlier are going to get moved into the independent variable box. Now, next you have to choose the method in which you're estimating, or the method in which you're using to enter your independent variables into the regression model. The most common is the enter method. The enter method, also called simultaneous entry, it simply means all 4 of the predictors are put in the model at the same time. Now, under statistics, the default is the model fit, and I also usually will pick the R-square change and the descriptives box. There are some other things here that you can do. You can pick the collinearity if you want to test that assumption. Under the plots, you can put the S residual and the Z residual and the Z predictor in the X and Y axis, and also check these graphs here to check a few more assumptions like heteroscedasticity, easy for me to say, or you could also check the homogeneity of variance. Under the save, you can save either standardized or unstandardized residuals, or some other statistics like Cook's or the leverage values, which also test assumptions. Now, once you have your variables in place, you can click OK. You can also press paste to paste the syntax, but in this case, we'll just press OK, and we have ourselves an output. Now, since we selected descriptives, the first thing we see in our output is that. Here you see the mean and standard deviation of our dependent variable. In the high 70s, you see generally our sample really liked the iPhone OS. However, they weren't all that impressed by the unified inbox. You can see fairly low score on the 1 to 100 scale. However, they were very impressed once again by the multitasking and the fact that the operating system was free, again in the high 70s. And finally, the number of months on average was in the 30s on how long the average participant had been using an iPhone. Alright, next we have our model summary. First we have our R-square, which is the percent of variability explained. You see right here, not terribly high in the teens. And then the significant statistic for that r², so it wasn't real high, but it was significant, below 0.05. That just means that all of our variables together did explain a significant amount of the variability of our dependent variable. The ANOVA table essentially tells a similar story. Now, below that we have the coefficients box, which shows the degree to which each of our predictors individually was related to our dependent variable. First, you have your constant, which is your intercept. That's basically the mean of your dependent variable when all of your predictors are held at 0. And then each individual predictor has a coefficient, a beta is a standardized version, and a significant statistic associated with it. Now remember, these estimates are called partial estimates. In other words, it's the degree that each of these variables is related to the dependent variable, controlling for all the other independent variables, the other 3 independent variables in the model. It's called a partial coefficient. So if I were to interpret this, I would probably say that excitement about multitasking and how many months someone has used the iPhone were the strongest predictors of someone's opinion that the iPhone OS was the greatest OS ever. Now, looking at the multitasking, we see that the beta was positive 1.08, meaning as their excitement about multitasking went up, so did their opinion that it was the greatest OS ever. However, interestingly, the number of months coefficient was negative, meaning the longer that they used or have used the iPhone, the less likely they were to really be that excited about the new OS. The remaining 2 predictors, excitement about the unified inbox and the excitement about the iPhone OS being free, were not really impactful on their overall opinion of it. In fact, you can see their significance were both above 0.05, which indicate a non-significant association. Now, once again, I can't stress this enough. This is not real data, it's just basically made up random numbers. So thanks for watching another episode of Deviant Square. Don't forget to check out our website, statsmakemecry.com. Lots of fun stuff there. This is Jeremy Taylor, the Stats Make Me Cry guy. So long, and see you next time.
I'm George W. Bush, and I approve this message. In fact, I think it is awesome.